everything out of PETG just because that's what I have here in the
Yeah.
office. So the upper sections actually printed very well, minus the channels. It was just I didn't put enough supports in the
Hmm.
small areas, but overall the print did really well. I ended up changing it to a click fit Velcro strap.
Okay.
So it's a BOA system, but it's got the Velcro closure, so kind of the best of both worlds.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of what I would view this brace as anyway. Would be a click fit closure rather than a BOA system closure.
Yeah.
It saves you on about $70 worth of fabrication materials to do it, but yeah, I'd say the proximal section worked out really well, and I think the BOA design was pretty and looks very accurate. I didn't have a BOA system to actually
Hmm.
fit into it, but I had some cabling that I tried to wire up and just see what the wiring would look like.
Yeah.
So
So that
that's
that that particular boa that I used, is that an uncommon boa? Is that a like is that a snowboarding boa? Is that for lacing and fabric?
and I'm not sure. So if you got it, where did you get the file from, or did you just kind of retro?
I got mailed two pairs of boas from a friend in the field, and I reverse engineered them with calipers.
Sure.
So they're
So
fairly
they
accurate.
do make a few of them, and if they were like the prosthetic ones, I think there are two separate devices, and I can't recall which is which. To be honest with you, I was trying to look it up. But regardless, yeah, I thought it looked very good as far as aesthetics goes. Design wise, I think the upper and lower section was actually pretty spot on. I think just again, it was me just doing pet G that it finally fractured
Yeah.
at with the template, which I knew it would.
Yeah.
And ironically enough, it wasn't while it was on me. It was when I was showing my boss, like, "Hey, check this out. I know this is where it's cracked," and all I did was just a little keep, and it
It popped.
snapped.
Oh boy.
So it's like, hey, but he was impressed with the design and the potential for it.
Okay.
So overall, I would consider it a success for it to be the first try,
Yeah.
and
Me
for
too.
you designing it, without seeing the actual
Visual.
body
Yeah.
or anything about it. I thought it was really cool.
Did the clinical modifications that I did pan out? Make sense?
They did, yeah. So the only things that I pay attention to when I do modifications, this is just more lab work, is that instead of doing a strict bubble, I would feather the entire thing, to be more organic shaped
Okay.
rather than a bulge. But the placement of it was really good. I didn't find any
Just
areas of
perfect
high
angles.
pressure. The posterior proximal of the SMO section would be the only place that I felt pressure, but that was just because I needed to buff it. I was being too lazy to go back and clean it up. But other than that, I thought the design and the fit did really well. So
Fantastic.
kudos to the designer there.
Well, thank you. So it all checks out, and like like was there a cost analysis at all of what this could mean on your end for pricing and workflow opportunities?
Sure. So in materials, we'd have to find a material that's suitable for 5 years.
Yeah.
So PET G is obviously not that material. But if we could get a polypropylene uh, alternative, which is a common
Yeah.
O&P plastic, somebody print PP print. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Or
PP.
P prints,
Yeah.
um, which I think is overseas somewhere. They're doing a product, but they don't have good bed adhesion by itself. You have to supplement it with a dual extruder um,
Oh, really? Just to get the
to have
adhesion.
a to heat it to the bed, but also for the support structure. Polypropylene doesn't tear apart very easily with supports.
Oh, yeah.
So the dual extruder, you print the supports in one material, you print the body and the polypropylene, and allegedly it comes off beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's just a more of a personal. You've got to have the equipment to do that type of printing. So if you could find an FDM friendly plastic that's a single extruder that has the properties of polypropylene, but the printing ability of PLA, whether that be ASA or
Yeah. It's
nylon, maybe. It's just I'm not as familiar with the you know MDS or the
yeah.
chemical properties of some of
Yeah,
those.
yeah, me too. And it changes by machine too. So even if you do find a material, it's finding a process that can manage it. is also a challenge. So, do you think MJF would work for this type of device?
Certainly. Oh yeah, I think it really would.
Yes,
So
and the price
if you
point I
printed it
quoted
in,
you it was like $360, I think, top end for a full print set of that piece.
that sounds right. So what I would see is that if I could get a CFAB analysis from one of our guys, I told my boss I think this cost us about 800 or 700 to build from central fabrication. That's including the parts required to buy it.
Yep.
Um, and if we could MJF print it for, let's just say $400, you print it for 400. This was 100 and actually this may have just been 100 to be honest.
Hmm.
So that was 500, and then the click fit strap is 30. So what is that? $530 versus
Yeah.
800. So you're still saving 200 and something dollars.
Yeah.
Now that's in raw cost. That's not inclusive of the labor.
Yeah.
So the person designing this digital device, that's what I've not considered myself, and that's what uh, the boss was talking about. It's like
Gotcha.
if it takes you an hour and a half to develop it, well, you've lost all your costs there. You could have been seeing another patient rather than sending
Really?
it to a traditional CFAB.
It has to be less than an hour and a half because it took me about an hour to design that using templates.
Right. Well, he was just coming up with a kind of a random
Yeah.
number, but in his world, clinicians' time equates to about $200 to $250 per hour of labor cost from the business side.
Oh wow. I thought
So
it
in
was
order to
before actual like hourly wage or something.
no, not like that. So according to him, and I've heard this from other business owners as well, is that they incorporate one your time, your salary, your ability to not if you're doing this, you're not seeing another patient.
Yeah.
So the revenue potential loss for every hour of things you don't do is around 200 to 250 per hour.
Oh, that
And I'm
seems
sure
like
there's an equation to that, but
yeah, that seems unfair though because like I don't think manufacturing does that. It's like machine time, energy, and manpower and materials. But
exactly.
maybe that's
But I guess because those machinists aren't being revenue generators, so with each encounter that I have as a clinician is a potential revenue generation for the business. So if I put in 30% of the cost of goods into the billing cycle, I can do that 8 hours a day. Versus if let's say I CAD two of these, then it means I've taken two of those 8 hours away. That's 20% of a labor cost shortage.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
it does.
So that's me learning as I go along as well on
Yeah,
where his head's at.
interesting, interesting. Okay, well, it sounds like we're really close. Like considering all things considered, digital tech, we're almost on the money, if not just under. So like, is
Yeah,
there another conversation to be had with someone else? Do you think like if we wanted to discuss this potentiality with him directly, would that he be open to a meeting or something?
yeah, I could definitely bring it up to him. Like I said earlier, we're kind of hitting the ground running at the moment. I'm sure tacking him down is going to be might be a few weeks off, but um, I showed this to him yesterday. He was impressed with the idea and the design. We all agreed that finding the material and the way to design it would be the barriers at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I see where he's coming from.
Yep. You know, I do too. Well, that's really, really promising, though. So, all things considered, your testing has been invaluable to me. I can modify or just almost leave as is my tutorial then, and because it seems like everything's sort of panned out. So the fit of the orange plates was a little tight, you said, or was
Slightly tight. And that could be a result of
FDM?
extrusion. Yeah, the FDM. It was so close though, but it took very minimal heat. So
Okay.
I wouldn't say I had to like bear it into there and brute force it by any means.
Okay. Well, considering again that was from a photo on a piece of paper. That's pretty impressive.
That is, yeah, that's actually because I think I sent you the pictures of those. That's right.
Yeah.
So all things considered, I thought you did a really good job of the retro design or reverse engineering. I think the placement looks really good as far as that goes. What I would say when you turn this into your next project or class, um, if you want to talk about your boa closures like you did in this, I think that's perfectly viable for MJF
Mm-hmm.
and but make it big enough to have the tube insert like I think you and I mentioned
Yeah.
that you saw in Nashville. But also knowing that in this version, I would most likely do the
The strap.
click fit strap,
Yeah.
in which you can build in slats to weave it in and out. You can do all kinds of stuff.
You're right. No, and that is practical. I've specifically chose the boa because it was a subject that's been asked for, and I'm like, this I can bed this in my course for this one, and people can buy
That's
it
right.
just to